therapy, whether it was AA, whether it was going through inpatient treatment, how would one person really create that change within their minds and then seek out one of those resources?
Yeah. Well, and it came to me, right? Like, and I know it's the old saying of like sick and tired of being sick and tired, but for me, it really came down to seeing my whole life in front of me just literally crashing down and burning, and there was nothing I could do about it. And I kept doing all these, like I said, I was trying to find the right book. I was looking at I was going to meetings. I was doing all of this thing, and I still really at the time. Um, I was trying the whole God thing, but for me, I wasn't about it. And it just, I didn't want to, if there was a God, he didn't love me. He sure as heck didn't want anything to do with me at the time, as much of a front as I could have put on. But it really got down to the point where I just didn't even want to live anymore. It was supposed to be the happiest time of my life. And inside, I was so happy with this person and using these external things. But inside, I was miserable because I knew I wasn't the person that I wanted to be. And I couldn't figure out why this is supposed to be right. And it's all the supposed to's, and it's really supposed to who, right? Like we live ourselves and we judge ourselves based on so many things that we see on Facebook and other people, and even our own maybe blueprint we had as ourselves as a child of where we should be at certain points. But I had to get to this point where I honestly, I didn't want to live anymore, and I had to reach up for help. And I do want to say to anyone who's speaking, and I'm not going to put my faith or anything else on anybody, but if you have a tough time with faith, and you're going through a rough spot, there's no better time than now, because I've found in just my experience, when things are going right in life, it's really hard to find that faith in something else, whether it be a God, whether it be the spirit of the universe, whether it be whatever have you. But when you're going through a rough time, that's usually when if you start seeking, you're going to find. And that's really what happened for me. And no matter what it is, if you're seeking resources, you usually will find some resources. And it was a humbling, real humbling experience to finally admit to these people that I love and I care about with truly all my heart. Like, I loved them more than I loved myself, that I couldn't do this, right? I was trying. I had to just admit that I needed help. No matter what I was doing, I didn't have the answer. And I didn't even know what the answer looked like, right? And needing other people who are going through this journey, who've been through the journey before, to show me the way, is just, anytime you want to be successful in life, if you look at people who have what you want and who have been where you've been and got out of it, then you can too. But there's going to be some things you need to do and changes you need to make. And without taking too much or going on too much of a rant, but it's really funny, and I related to this story I actually heard the other day of, and that's exactly how I felt in my life. Is I felt like this ant on a log floating down a river, and right, you're floating down a raging river, and I was the ant, and I was running back and forth on this log, back and forth and back and forth, and I was delusional enough to think that I was steering the log, right? But really, all I was doing is all this work and working myself into, I'm going right, I'm going left, I'm going right, and I'm steering this log, and really the stream of life was just carrying me along. And until I finally sat back and I started to enjoy the ride and ask for these resources and ask for this help, and just kind of be okay with where I was at, and knowing that it wasn't really in my hands. Because even today, to tell you the truth, my history pattern shows me that if I do what I do, and I don't ask for resources, and I don't have outside help, and I don't have and who I call God, but that in my life, I have a needle in my arm, or I have pills in my stomach, and everything that's happened to me, and the amazing things I'm enjoying in life today, and how fast things have uh, turned around in my life. I had absolutely nothing to do with it other than getting really honest, having a little hope, asking for help, and then having faith that everything's going to work out. And I can tell you today, I'm very grateful for where I'm at.
That's wonderful. And I love that log analogy. I think that's a recurring theme that I've been seeing throughout a lot of people, is that you have to control what is controllable. So you have to let those outside forces kind of take way and let your life go where it should. And you have to control everything that you see where you can create change within your own life. And I loved how you were speaking about kind of those external pressures and kind of whether it was peer pressure or so forth. Why don't you speak about how that can be a big determining factor with whether it's young people or adults today? How can peer pressure lead to a lot of these issues, whether it be drug addiction or mental health, whether it's through social media or in person?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's super simple to see friends where you were at and at your age group and what they're doing with their life and everything else, and you're seeing pictures on Facebook or Instagram, and little do you know is they were fighting the entire trip, but they managed to put it together for 30 seconds to take an amazing filtered picture for Facebook and Instagram where the sun set just right and everything else, and you got to remember that everybody's going through their own stuff. And even the people who seem like they're okay and have it all together, they need to be asked if they're doing okay. But the social pressures and the social norms of really, I thought that everybody drank like I did. And I really thought that everybody smoked weed like I did. And I thought that everybody has this period in their time of life where they're just blacking out and struggling to make ends meet or struggling to get to work or they're going through these phases of life and the fact of the matter is not everybody does go through that but everybody does have their own struggles no matter what that may look like. And for me it was just that always that pressure of not being good enough, not being where I wanted to be in life, not being accepted, and it was really accepting myself, right? Because all this pressure that was I foresaw as outside was really internal pressure, and it really just came out to I was miserable because the blueprint I had for my life didn't look like how it did. I did not want to be a drug addict. I did not want to be wanting to kill myself. I did not want to be not having a house, not having being married, not all these things at certain points that I had set up for my life plan. And because those didn't happen, I chose to be miserable rather than find all the things I could have been grateful for. And I would have never thought I'd been grateful for the disease of addiction. And I couldn't be more grateful for it today. It's finally given me a purpose. Going through life with not having any meaning and knowing I loved helping people, but not knowing what I was good at as far as being able to do that, how I was going to be able to put food on the table with it, all of these other things. And addiction has given me the path to all that. It has given me a purpose and a drive in life. It's given me a way to uniquely help other people. It's given me a career outside here that I can genuinely help people every single day, and I'm good at it. And although that's not going to be my passion, but right now it's allowing me to do the things that I want to do inside my business of Plugged In Recovery. So it's teaching me how to be a better human being, and I think that's what recovery is all about, right? It's all about just becoming a better human being and being able to connect to people, because addiction is so isolating, is being able to actually connect to people and not on a facade level of I'm here and you're there, of meeting up, keeping up with the Joneses, but really just being able to say, I accept for you, and asking people how they're doing with their day, and just sending out a simple text, doing all these things that I was so selfish for before of like, oh, this is going to take time. And when we look at it, it's like, how long does it take to take a 10-second check on somebody and send them a text maybe with a smiley face and say, how you doing today? Right? Because you never know where somebody's at. And it might be the person who's struggling, or it might be somebody you think is doing really good, but we're all going through things at different times. And I think we place this judgment on ourselves. And that's one thing I see in recovery a lot, right? Is I have this much time, so people expect me to be okay. I have 5 years, so people expect I have to act a certain way. I have to be a certain person because I have 5 years. And it's like, no, you're a human being. We all go through things at different times. And people who aren't addicts, they're going through different things at different times. People who suffer from trauma or depression or paralyzing anxiety attacks where they can't move, they can't think, they can't do anything. And it's like, you never know what somebody's going through. So just becoming a better person and being more self-aware that you're not the center of the world, and other people, if you can add to the stream of life rather than take, it's such a amazing feeling inside. And I truly wish that everybody could experience, because I tell you what, I took for a large portion of my life, and I ended up homeless, holding a sign, trying to take more money from people. And right now I've give and I give, whether it's my time, whether it's a smile, whether it's money, I give, I give, and I've never felt more full, and I've never had more in my life. And I'm just, again, I just can't tell you enough how blessed and grateful I am for where I'm at today.
That's so awesome, Wade. And I completely agree how you spoke about relationships and how we can connect with other people, whether it's reaching out for a quick just check in or whether it's being there if they need resources or they just need a friend to lean on. And there's a great story that I think correlates a lot to what you're saying about giving and receiving. And so basically, there was this monk, and what he wanted to do was he wanted to change the world. And he was so passionate about trying to create change on such a large scale, he kind of lost sight of what he was actually trying to do. And when he was able to basically dumb it down and bring it to kind of a smaller approach to his community, he first started within himself. So he started to fix himself and change himself and try to help himself in order of what he wanted to really aim and achieve. And once he helped himself, he went and helped his family, and it led to his town, it led to his area, his community, and that built to when he was older, he finally realized if he started with himself when he was so young, when he was really in his teens, his 20s, when he was his age now, he would have been able to insurmountably help the whole entire world. And I think that's really what I've been starting to realize as well is I was trying to be there for other people, but I wasn't really taking care of myself. I never put my mental health first. And I think that's what the beauty of, whether it's recovery or facing what you're going through, it's first you have to help yourself, but then you have to be there. And just like you and I, we're in a great, healthy environment right now. And now we're able to reach so many other people today and help them through what we were able to go through, which is so beautiful. But unfortunately, some people like that monk don't realize until they're older in their life. So it's definitely a perspective change that is definitely great that we're able to uncover at such a young age, which is so great. And I think this in turn really goes to speaking more about plugged in recovery. I've been following you, and you were doing some events in Louisville. So why don't you speak more about what you have been doing and what your goals are to reach out more, whether it's events or just speaking at different areas.
Yeah, and that's what's really cool about this thing, and I really want to say I love the story you shared about the monk because that's really what it is, right? Is and what Plugged In is doing is I've found that by supporting other people, not only does it give me support because it does take that action, right? And you're absolutely right. It's just like in an airplane with a mom and a child. It's I have to put that mask on first before I can save another life. Um, but what I've found is that by reaching out, by volunteering for things, whether it's putting on a sober event, whether it's uh, convention stuff, whether it's just going to rehab centers to help other people who are in the midst of this thing, and for lack of a better term, they're just hurting. They're hurting in life. I've found so much growth in that and support from other people because it does take putting ourselves out there. My disease wants me alone in a room where my head can go to work on myself. That's exactly where my disease wants me because when I live up in my head, I lose that battle pretty much 10 times out of 10. And that's just a fact. I'm done getting in that ring because I'm going to lose. I keep getting knocked out every single time. And it's like I come back for more and I get knocked out again and I come back for more. And then you start seeing and you looking around and it's like, at first the whole crowd's there and then you come back and less crowd there. And then you get back to it and maybe your mom and dad show up. But after a while, people are just sick and tired of seeing you take that loss and get knocked out. And it's painful for them to see. So I had to get out of that ring altogether and just say, I'm done with it. But with Plugged In Recovery and kind of the events you shared is I'm part of a Instagram community. And I really have to give props to a lot of the people. There's a woman by the name of Karen who's very inspirational. KMF Klein on Instagram. Martha, her name is at Recover Out Loud. LLC, and Jen at Jen Resurrection of Me, who has a book coming out, Shape of